Welcome everybody to our town hall. This is something we try to do to engage the community and a lot of the issues that they have going on today and answer questions and things about our professions and how we do our business and just, have open dialogue, right? So without further ado, I'm going to let everybody on the panel introduce themselves, because I hate messing people's names up, titles, and all that. And I'll tell you a little about what they do and where they're at currently. So Judge Shannon, I think you're first.
Okay, all right, thank you. I am Cheryl Shannon. I'm judge of the 305th District Court, which is one of our 2 juvenile courts in Dallas County. We hear child protective services cases where youth are alleged, well, actually youth and children have been hurt or injured by their families in some way. And then we hear cases where youth are alleged to have committed offenses. So we're one of the juvenile courts in Dallas County. I also have a specialty court called a STEAM court, which is a girls' court that deals with young ladies that have been trafficked. And one of the things that I always find for our community is pretty shocking, and for the Dallas community to realize what a heavy population we have of teenage girls that are being sexually trafficked. And so it's heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, but we do a lot of good things to kind of help them along the continuum.
I am Judge Stephanie Huff, formerly Judge Stephanie Mitchell. I recently got married. I am the presiding judge of the 291st Judicial District Court. That is a felony criminal court bench here in Dallas County, so I handle cases ranging from your low-level felonies where maybe you've stolen one too many times and now you're bumped up to a felony court, all the way up to capital murder cases. In addition to my duties as the judge of the 291st Judicial District Court, I have a diversion program I do called the Second Chance Community Improvement Program, aka SCIP. And we target the high crime, low income areas of Dallas, and we bring people into the program and provide them with wraparound services in hopes that we can provide them with opportunities so that they don't end up back in the criminal justice system. And once they finish my program, their cases are dismissed and expunged. I also am one of the 3 judges that takes part, or actually we've added 2 more, so I'm wrong. I am one of 5 judges that does pipeline to possibilities, and so they'll talk to you more about that.
I'm Judge Shaquita Kelly. I am the presiding judge of County Criminal Court number 11. It is one of 2 family violence courts. It's a misdemeanor court where the punishment cannot exceed up to a year in jail. I have a pre-trial diversion court as well. It's called Intercepted. It is geared towards helping those first-time young offenders of domestic violence get rehabilitation. It's 9 months long. And it's pretty intensive, but at the end the case can be dismissed and expunged. I am also the presiding judge over Dallas County's Homeless Diversion Court, which helps the homeless in Dallas County secure housing, employment, and a savings. So that's it. And I'm one of the judges for Pipeline of Possibilities.
Hi everyone, my name is Amber Gibbons Davis. I'm the presiding judge of the 282nd Judicial District Court here in Dallas County. I also preside over a felony court, so everything from enhanced theft cases to capital murder cases. I am one of the Pipeline to Possibility judges as well. I also have a 10-month supplemental felony probation program called the Empowerment Program, where probationers are partnered with mentors from the community, and we offer all kinds of services to them as well. In addition to that, I also created a program called the Word of Mouth series where I educate the community about the criminal justice system.
My name is Judge Carmen White. I am a misdemeanor judge over County Criminal Court number 8 here in Dallas County. I am a relatively new judge and very new to Pipeline of Possibilities. This is my probably 3rd event to do with the ladies, but I'm happy to be here and excited for this. I actually am on the steering committee. Dallas County is in the process of finally getting a court management system that hopefully works this time. And so I'm on the steering committee of that process. We're just beginning, but hope to have something online soon. So I don't this time have a specialty court because I'm deep in computer stuff.
And my name is Judge Raquel Rocky Jones. I am also new to the bench. I was newly sworn in on January 1st of 2019. I preside over a district court where I hear anything from state jail felony cases all the way up to death penalty cases and all of that in between. In my court, I also have a specialty program, and it's called the Atlas Program. It is achieving total liberty and success. And what the Atlas program does is we service people who have a mental health a mental health problem along with substance abuse. So if they have both of those things together, in my program, we have court oversight that will help them manage probation. We give them wraparound services, as Judge Huff has indicated, whereas we allow them to have the services of Metro Care so that they can make sure and get their mental health needs taken care of. And then we help them navigate and hopefully be successful in and on their probation. We have had several graduations since I've been on the bench, and so I'm very proud when we have people who can actually help have that program help them and they make it work. And I am a new judge to Pipeline to Possibilities, and I will say myself and Judge White are very happy to join these ladies who have started
Happy to have you.
such a great program for our youth, to let them know that there's abundance of possibilities for them. And if nothing else, maybe they can look at us and see that all things can happen.
All right, so that's the panel. Excuse me?
And then we have.
Oh, we got representatives from the fire department.
Hello.
Introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Bill Rickard. I've been working for the City of Dallas Fire Department for 33 years. I was a firefighter, started out as a firefighter. Now I'm working for the fire prevention side, and my job is to go different businesses, tell them how they should do this and that and other things, so they can not start fires with their business, to keep the firefighters from not, so they won't have to come out and fight the fires.
Gotcha. Good point. So, in our very crowded room here, but I know between these three, they probably got more questions than anybody who would be sitting there. So, what we'll do is we'll do open for discussion. That's always the format here, because generally, if the community is there, they have questions of us, which they don't normally get access to people like us in this room. So, without further ado, if you guys have any particular topics based on what you've heard from any of the judges, their particular areas of expertise, myself or the firefighter, feel free at this time to ask us what you would like to ask us.
I would like to start with the Dallas Fire and Rescue. Lately we've been hearing a lot of businesses having fires and hotels that are empty, abandoned, catching on fire. So tell us, how are those things happening and how can we prevent them from happening, especially if it's unoccupied?
There's so many places that people get into and set places on fire on purpose.
Oh.
A lot of the places we go to are empty, like hotels, little apartments and stuff like that. By the time we get there, there's nobody here, but somebody's been in there, like dope smokers, people. There's a lot of places we go to, people smoking dope in all those little houses and stuff. And we have a lot of, every day there's a fire around in Dallas somewhere because of that situation.
Okay, thank you, I didn't think about it that way. So let's talk about, say, churches, a place that fries chicken and fish and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll tell you what they did wrong. Their fire extinguishing system, they're supposed to get their fire extinguishing system checked every 6 months. And that extinguishing system, when that grease gets too hot, it'll extinguish everything out there. Like they have a special kind of system for grease.
Oh.
As soon as it gets hot, it has a little link that's made out of lead, and it'll pop that, and it'll like flour come down to smother everything. Evidently, they didn't get that thing checked.
Oh, so okay. So what about hotels? How do they prevent?
Okay.
Because randomly they have little fire
Yeah,
things
just like
goes
these
off.
sprinkler systems. Hotels they're supposed to have sprinkler systems. So the deal is on hotels, we go check hotels. Okay. They have little tags on like their things that shoot water like this that go up to the sprinkler systems. So they have to get those checked every year. Okay, if they're not good, the company that checks them, they'll put different color tags on them. As soon as that company that checks them, by the Texas law, they say, hey, you gotta tell me what color tag they gotta send to the fire department, put on there. If they put a red tag on there, they're gonna tell me, I'm gonna go out there and check and tell the hotel, you got a red tag here. Now you gotta get that fixed, because your sprinkler system's not working. So that means I'm gonna have to tell the hotel this week, having all this, we're going through a lot of stuff with hotels, they're mad now, because they said we were milking them for money. Okay, you don't want to get it fixed, so we do them like this. Until you get it fixed, we're gonna pay with some of my fire department people. You're gonna have to pay some of my fire department people $110 an hour until you get it fixed, and they're gonna sit here 24 hours until you get it fixed. They don't want to do that. But we offer them another alternative also. Okay, you can do it. Instead of paying us $110 an hour, we explain to them what they have to do, you know what your sprinkler system is, you know what your alarm panel is, you know what this, okay, yeah. But they can't leave that site. You gotta have two forms of communication until you gotta have a phone and like a, you're gonna have to have a phone and a radio. Radio, you know, like a radio, handheld radio. In case something happens, you can call the fire department, you need some help to come put that fire out or something. And be able to get everybody out of there.
I'm glad you said that, and I have some for our panel. You know, and I've learned this from being a part of T-Hop, and I'm probably not alone with this one. You know how you walk into a building, now I know to look for exits.
Mhm.
And I'm learning more about watching exits because of all these shootings that's taken place. A lot of times, let me just say for me, I don't think about that as it relates to, say, evacuating from a fire. You know, the first thing we do as humans, we panic.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you help us? What do we do in a case where there's smoke? What are we supposed to do? Should we go in the buildings looking for exits? Help us out with that. What should we do? Is it the same thing as a shooting situation? So help us.
Exit, look for that exit and get out of there. Smoke, that's what we tell them. That's when I go in and tell them, I check for exits every time I go in there. Hey, the exit sign's not lit up. Exit signs gotta be lit up, man. The exit sign has to be lit up. Because anytime anything catches on fire, the smoke's gonna always rise to the top because it's lighter than air. So it might block that exit. It has to be lit up. The exit sign has to be lit up.
I'd like for the judges to tell us about success stories of the pipeline. You know, give us some examples how great it is. I know it's good, but some examples, maybe not giving the names, but examples.
I don't know that we can even quantify names if we really wanted to.
Well, I don't want to name.
It's been so many. We started at least 2 years ago, and we were doing at least 2 schools a semester, so 4 schools a year. What we have heard from different faculty members is that they have seen a decrease in tardies, absenteeism, and just different behavioral issues they were observing in their students since participating in the program. I think the other thing that we've acknowledged is that a lot of students reach out to us and say things they're not comfortable saying to their teachers, to their counselors, or their parents. And we've been able to give them advice, guide them. It's been such an inspiring and motivating experience, and I think all of you can kind of attest to that. We've done pre-test and post-test and kind of gauge their feelings after the fact, and I'll let you talk a little bit more about it because you kind of read the assessments on the post-test. But it's been rewarding, and I don't know that we can quantify like how many students we've impacted, but I know we've definitely made an impact.
I have reviewed several so what we do is a pre-test when they first come in before the sessions start, and then at the end, before they leave us, we do a post-test. And so the questions are something like, hey, who do you live with? What do you know about the criminal justice system? If someone were to shoot in your school today, would you know what to do? Do you know what pipeline to prison is? Those questions, and typically they don't know what they would do if a school gets shot up while they're there. They don't know anything about the pipeline of prison. They don't, one of the questions is how much do you know about the criminal justice system from a scale 1 to 5? Typically, they put like 1 or 2. 5 means you know a lot, 1 or 2 means no, not that much. But by the end, they typically have moved that 1 or 2 score up to 4 or 5. They can define what the pipeline to prison is. They have a plan in the event that there's a shooting in the school, because we have a session that deals with that. But for me and my colleagues, one of the most enlightening things, and I think the most rewarding things for us, is the comments at the end where they talk about us. Because in the beginning, they typically, and Judge Shannon is there in the beginning, they're kind of just coming on in, sitting down, talking, you know, what is this field trip about? And at the end, they're begging us to stay. They're like, wait, this is the last session? We're not gonna see you again? And so one of the comments, Amber, do you remember the exact?
Yeah, so for last semester, we had a young lady say that the fact that all 4 of us, it was Judge Green, Judge Huff, Judge Kelly, and I at the school at the time, and she said the fact that she saw someone that looked like her made her believe that she too could achieve things that we had done. And so it was the fact that we looked like her. She said she had never seen anyone that looked like us before in these types of positions. And that meant a lot to us because, you know, we want them to believe that despite, you know, looks, age, what have you, whatever statistics are telling them that they're able to do, that all of that is just kind of what society believes to be true. It's not necessarily their reality.
Oh, actually, I have a success story.
That's great.
I didn't tell you two this, which
What?
you weren't there yet, but we were in the churches, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we were doing middle schools at the church. So we have middle school students at the churches on Wednesday nights, and we would do the high schools during the day at Wednesday. And so we had a group that is, I don't know the area, where were we at the other
We're at
day?
Hall Street.
Friendship?
No,
No, we're at Hall Street.
Oh,
Hall
we
Street?
were
Right, Hall
75
Record,
and-
Hall's
Rosewood Apartments?
Rosemount.
Rosemount. And so we walked in, and I was just sitting there waiting, and see a hand in the back waving at me, and I'm like, what was that? I could barely see through the window, and so I flagged her to come in, and it was one of the students from
Oh, yeah,
Friendship
from
West.
Friendship West.
And it actually was 2 of them. One was a
It was a
female,
guy,
one was
yeah.
a male. And he said, I still have that book you guys gave us, and I use it.
Yeah.
And I said, really? It's been 2
I work
years?
hard on that.
Yes. And he said, and I use it. He's like, yeah, I be telling my friends about
Okay.
it. And that was so rewarding.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
walked in late. He was like, Judge, she was in Pipeline. I was like, oh, okay, Friendship West. So it is like when, especially, we were working in DISD. This is the first year that we have expanded outside of DISD, and we're partnering with Duncanville this year. And we would bring the kids back from other DISD schools, and they would beg, like, when are y'all coming back to our school?
Always ask when we're coming back.
Always. And so it's amazing that we are able to create these relationships with them because like Judge Huff said, you know, many times they have questions, they're learning together, they're all going through this experience of being teenagers together, and they know that they don't know what's going on. And so, but they're afraid to ask their teachers, they don't want to talk to their parents about it. And we tell them, you know, from day one, we're not going back and telling your parents, you know, please talk to us. We'd rather you learn from us than each other because you're kind of experiencing the same thing at the same time. So,
I think we learned from them as well.
oh yeah, for sure.
And I want to highlight the fact, I know we kind of slightly mentioned it, but it's grown so much. We started with 4 sessions, then we ended up at 6 sessions, and now we're trying to expand to 8 sessions outside of this semester. And so we were happy to have 2 other judges that wanted
Yes.
to participate in this. And we were so delighted, like, to even be able to expand this to them. And so they are new to this. Like, this is their first semester even interacting with the students. And they have stepped in and done an amazing job. They actually started by participating in the skit as lawyers. So the kids didn't even realize they were actually judges. They were acting as lawyers in this skit, and it scared the mess out of the kids the first session because Rocky had no client control, and her client attacked Carmen's victim, and it turned into a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to make sure that we highlight the fact that they are here now, and we're so happy to have them because it's been a lot for the 4 of us. And Judge Lisa Green, who's not present on the panel, is the 4th Pipeline of Possibilities judge that we've been talking about. But she's tied up today with some family commitments she had. And so we're happy to have you guys. And
Yeah, because I think having them gives us an opportunity to expand even more and to service the children in a better way where we're stretched so thin because we all have you heard us say that we have our own pretrial diversion programs and we're ripping and running, we're in trials, and so having them is just going to be great. I think it's just going to be a better service for the children.
Yeah, not to mention, it's kind of like a pilot program because we've gotten calls and visits from people all over the country that want pipeline of possibilities in their city. So this is kind of like a pilot program for us to figure out how do we expand it not only in Dallas but elsewhere.
Well, I applaud you.
And
the
question back
program.
here?
I'm sorry, I got here late and I found out about the event because I did a search for a multicultural event happening in Dallas. And this town hall came up. This is the first one I've ever been. I'm a resident of Seagoville, Texas, which is like east of 175. And there wasn't a lot of information about what exactly it is you do. And I'm sorry that I was here late. So I don't know if you already addressed what it was or what the purpose of the initiative is. When did you start? Why? And I would just kind of like to get some of that information.
So we started actually in 2016 with Pipeline of Possibilities.
And what, I'm sorry, you said it's
Pipeline of Possibilities,
Okay.
2016. And it was really Judge Huff, Judge Green, and myself are members of Concord. And so Pastor Carter invited all of us. So Judge Kelly was there too. He invited all elected officials in Dallas County, and we all happened to be sitting on the same row, and we were watching a clip from 13th, and it was about our children and how test scores are being used to determine how many beds we need in prisons and things like that. And Judge Kelly and I started talking. I was like, man, we have got to go into these schools because we all go visit the schools, for career day and things like that. But that's, 5-10 minutes. How much interaction are you really having with the kids there? And so we all got together, the four of us, and decided that we would change the narrative from pipeline to prison to pipeline to possibilities. And so we started with the DISD schools that we looked at the stats and the highest rates of incarceration in Dallas. We targeted those areas to go into those schools. And so we were literally doing, like Judge Huff said, four schools an academic year. And then on top of that, we added churches. So, we've probably worked with over 1,500 students at this point.
And it's not just us. We bring in all kind of resources. They learn from the beginning. Judge Shannon comes every semester and teaches them about juvenile law. And then we have a gynecologist that comes and speaks to our women. And it's just a bunch of different people from the community that we pull as well to educate the youth about their future and their choices that they're making.
And so I think the overreaching goal of the program is that the children that we encounter in these schools, and we ask the counselors and the school administrators to identify students that they think need that extra touch or love to keep them from ending up in the criminal justice system. Or maybe they're interested in the criminal justice system and want to figure out how this all works. We bring those kids in, and our goal is to show them all the possibilities life has to offer. And so ultimately, we don't want to see them in front of us.
Right.
We hope that we've impacted them so that they can be, if they are in front of us, the lawyer, it's talking with the clients, as opposed to being the actual defendant in front of us. That's our ultimate goal, is teaching them life has so much to offer.
And so what are your targeted ages? Is it a specific area? Because I know you referenced test scores, but what areas are where those test scores are lower in?
So that's literally nationwide, third grade reading tests, right? Those scores are used to determine the numbers that they anticipate they'll have in the prisons. So for us right now, we're working with high school students.
We tried middle school.
Yeah, with the churches.
But we are going to be honest, the content that we're addressing, because if we're all being honest with ourselves, what kids are encountering now in school is very different from what we grew up dealing with. They have to now worry about their school being shot up. They are now dealing with sexting, texting, all that kind of stuff. Social media is taking life and bullying in a whole nother direction. And so we address those things, and we found that sometimes the topics and materials are a bit too graphic and too mature.
Yeah, too complicated.
Too
We're talking
complicated.
about the bonds, the grand jury versus jury system, the punishment range of a felony versus the punishment range of a misdemeanor. That's a lot for a 7th grader
And
or a
so
6th grader.
we tried middle school, but we think our focus needs to be more in high school, and we've found that it's been impactful right there.
So what, since you're targeting high school students now, like is there a specific area, like Southeast Dallas, Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, like more specific
So we've
in
moved,
regards to minorities?
we moved out of DISD for this academic year. We're working with Duncanville right now. So our previous years had been with DISD, and now we're at the Duncanville High School.
And when we were doing DISD, we actually looked at the largest population of people in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, our prison system, where they matriculated from. And we started there. So we started with your South Oak Cliff, Roosevelt, Lincoln, those high schools, because they had the highest amount of people in the criminal justice system in prison. So we started there, and we kind of branched out a little bit more, and now we're moving into Duncanville, because we want to make sure we're touching everyone.
And what, aside from, from you trying to target, I'm a teacher myself, so, and I teach for Dallas, and I just had never heard of this.
What school are you at?
I'm at Central Elementary. It is an elementary school, but I also have, I have teachers, like all over DISD, and I don't think I've ever heard a teacher talk about this. So how do you promote this program for teachers to, like, maybe even try to partner up with you? Like, I know it's you all, and you said, you find yourself thin. So what are some resources that you think that the community can provide to you all and help you all in trying to impact as many students as you can, so they are more aware of the consequences in life? Because just from my personal research and my experience, I know that minority communities have a deficit of resources that are available to them. I grew up in Pleasant Grove myself, when and one of the biggest drug busts was next to my home. And at that time, there weren't any resources available. There wasn't anybody coming out to you and talking to you. The police was the last resource that you wanted to go to. So I don't see that much has changed from then. So how do you think that, aside from this program, how do you think you can reach more people and kind of embrace the relationship between, first of all, like minorities considering law enforcement and other people assets to them and ways for them to help them? How do you think that you can find other resources within the community to help you reach as many students as you can?
Well, we were working with the trustees, the DISD trustees, and that's how we, in addition to our own research, we weren't necessarily promoting it unless we were going to that particular school. Okay. So it was really based on the school, based on our own research and our involvement with the trustees.
Okay.
And not only that, we had a liaison that worked directly with DISD who knew the population that needed us. And so a lot of our students are hand-chosen. They are picked by their counselors because they know the difficulties that they're facing at home, or they know their interests. They want to be lawyers. They know, oh, I have this student who's doing well. They would really benefit from this program. Or I have this student that's struggling, and they would benefit from this program. And so that's how we get our students, is through the liaison who talks to those schools, who have the counselors reach out to certain students.
Right,
And
and then we do programming outside of the 6 sessions. So we were invited a couple weeks ago to speak at a community center. Mm-hmm. So you all can always invite us out for a session where we kind of give you a crash course of the things mm-hmm. that we discuss with the students, the topics. You can visit us at pipelineofpossibilities.com. Leave us a message if you're interested in inviting us out, and we'd love to come visit with you.
And also, we did a promotion video with Dallas ISD. They filmed it personally and sent it out to all their schools. And so we've done our best to kind of let schools know we're here. And we've been approached by a number of schools to come. That's why we ended up in Duncanville, because they've been asking us since 2016. And so we finally say, you know what, let's try and make our way down south, figure out how we're going to make this work. So wish us luck, because, we still have our full-time jobs and and dockets and families, but we're going to try and make our way down there and make this work.
So what are your projections for like the program? like in 5, where do you see the program being in 5 years? 10
Part of
years?
the curriculum.
Yeah, in
That's the
Texas
goal.
for all schools.
Yeah, that is the goal, to get legislature to realize that people benefit from having this kind of knowledge, and hopefully they will make this a part of the actual high school curriculum.
Okay, I got another question. I'm old school, as you might know. When I was going to school, we had prayer. We had discipline. We had teachers that had big boards with holes in them, and we would get our butts whooped. There was a price for bad behavior. Today, there is no consequences for bad behavior. What can we do as a community to change that? I know St. Philip's, they do Saint of the Week to encourage better behavior. I don't see anything anywhere else.
Well,
What?
let me tell you this, I don't think there's not something that happens with regards to bad behavior. It just looks very differently now. I think right now, the way bad behavior is treated is very similar to the criminal justice system. And so what you do in school will follow you for the rest of your life. And so when you go to try and get into college or different things, you got that record that you started back when you were in elementary school being a bad kid, and you were just being rambunctious, or whatever that entails. I think we as a community have to gather around our children and make sure that we are acknowledging their behaviors as well as their talents, and we find a way to promote and encourage them to be their best selves. Now, I don't disagree with you at all, because I was the person that grew up with the Board of Correction above our kitchen entryway. So
Right.
I got hit with paddles and different things. And I'm not saying that's always the answer, but I will say this. I do think that there definitely needs to be some structure for our kids. But I think we can't sit here and act as though our schools have not taken an approach that has very detrimental impacts to our children and allowing them to grow. Everyone is one way as a child. They're a different way as a teenager. They're a different person as an adult. I think we all grow and evolve. We have to have something in place, structures in place that allow people to be, or allow people to grow, I should say. And so I hate the fact that whatever happens to you in elementary school or middle school or high school is now preventing you from being able to get into college or have scholarships and different potentials down the road.
It's
So
the pipeline.
Right.
hence the pipeline to prison. I mean, it's the very
Right.
structure that puts this all into place, right?
Right.
So, if you're asking me personally, I think it starts at home,
Yeah, I do
absolutely.
too.
But I think we also can't get rid of the fact that there's a village for a reason.
Right.
And we as a village have to be accountable to the people that we are producing out of our environments around us. And then I also think that we need to, as a school and justice system, take our part and make sure that we're allowing people to grow, change, and evolve and become their best selves.
Right. And when we look at the schools, we have to realize that the government actually does have the money for education.
Mhm.
It's just the way we prioritize spending those dollars, right? When you look at a majority of the 50 states, they spend more to house inmates in prison than they do per student in our school systems, and that's a shame. That's absolutely ridiculous. And so we, as a community, we have to start demanding from our elected officials, you know, how are we gonna spend these dollars? Why aren't we allocating certain dollars for education versus our prison systems? I mean, why is that?
And, I'm sorry.
Finish and then we'll get to her.
I mean, so what I was gonna say is I think it is up to the community to hold us responsible, and then, but the community has to allow the village. So we have gotten to a point, I think, in our communities where you can't tell my kid anything, right?
No respect.
No respect, so
No
that the
respect.
village isn't the community's not allowing the village, the people to where we were raised. I grew up in a small town in Arkansas. You were raised by the whole community. Like, whatever you did, everybody knew. And if you did it wrong, you would be told on. And my pastor preached a sermon a few months ago, and he said, that which one generation tolerates, the next generation embraces. Me and my brother were having this conversation about, there was a time when Sunday was Sunday, and you didn't do anything but go to church and hang out with family. And then one generation tolerated ball practice, let's say, on Sunday, after church, right? But then the next generation embraced us playing ball at 11 o'clock on Sunday, where we don't go to church anymore. And so I think as a generation, we've got to realize, see what we are tolerating, and stop tolerating it, so that my daughter, who's in the back with headphones on, with what kids do now, won't embrace the ability to believe it's natural for us to grow up and go to prison. Right? That I went to a scholarship banquet this morning for breakfast. There were 7 children who got scholarships. Of the 7, 6 were women, right? Because our young men, there's one boy that got a scholarship in this whole group, and of the 7 of those, they were all African American, but 5 of them were African American, right? Born in Africa and brought to the United States. Where are we?
Yes.
I mean, where are we? And I will use the word Black Americans, because we're just Americans, born here in the States with this color. Where are we? Why is 7 or 5 of the 7, and nothing wrong with our brothers and sisters from Africa who are now in America, but where are our children? Because our village is broken down. They still have their village. We've lost our village. So unless we go back, we got to track back in time, figure out where we went wrong, and then make a correction and quit embracing and tolerating behavior that is not how we were raised to be successful.
Any question?
First, I just want to say that this is amazing, what I'm seeing before my face. You beautiful women that have this powerful authority. That's great. But we have to come up with ways to involve the community. Because you all are here, but where is the community? So I want to say, I'm an infant toddler teacher. You know, we go to school to learn how to teach them. So, but it has to start before high school.
Yep.
Because as an infant toddler teacher, 3 years old is already almost, they already on a certain category, in a certain category. So we gotta get them before high school. We have to get them, you know, as early as we can. And what we have to do with your programs is, I know it's graphic and, you know, everything, but we gotta somehow let them know that what they do now is going to follow them. They need to have that information now. And the parents need to have that information so that they can understand, you know, if you want little Johnny to go and be in college, then, you know, you have to start giving little Johnny what he needs at 3 and 4 and 5 as far as academic is concerned. I'm very concerned, and it just breaks my heart. I'm a musician, and so me and some musician friends, we organized this thing called MWIB. And it stands for Men and Women in Blue. It's to honor public servants. And we do recitals. And it's just hard to get the community involved in it. I don't know if I just don't know what has happened. But as the community, y'all have 2 people of the community here to hear this. If we could come up with some kind of a way to, you know, communicate or something, you know, we have to put some thought into it, you know. So, yeah, I mean.
What school are you at?
Well, right now I'm at SMU. I'm a grad student.
Okay.
So all of you, all of you judges?
Yes, ma'am.
All of you educated?
Yes, ma'am.
So education is paramount. You can't do anything without education. You must learn how to read. And if we could catch them like early, the ones that want to go into public service, and start giving them that direction, that would help out a lot, I think.
So I think, I'm going to speak on behalf of a group I just joined, but I believe that the concept that the lady started is what we know is the generation of kids we're talking to will be parents soon, probably within the next 5 to 10 years of their life, right? And so we're hoping that the literacy campaigns that we do and the economic development, because, I mean, on a baseline level, economics is the issue, right? I mean, on a baseline level, if you are hungry, you're not at a town hall meeting, you're doing whatever it takes to figure out how to resolve that hunger. So once as a community, I think we can address our needs, then people are willing to come down. It's much like if something happens tomorrow and we need a protest, they can get a protest together between, like, now it's what? It's 2:57, and by 4 o'clock, they could have half the community out walking up and down some street. But it shouldn't take tragedy for us to be able to gather. It should be something positive, but the reality is that's not where we are. And so I think we are trying to address those people who will have children that you'll see a few years from now, and that we've impacted with them that literacy and education and staying on the positive road is right, so they will do that to their children. After the scholarship banquet this morning, and I went to a literacy fair, I took my daughter, and they were giving away free books, all kind of books, and a lot of them written by Black authors. And there was all kind of people in there, but us. We weren't in there to get free. Where were we at to get free books? It was in Garland. They advertised it everywhere. It's at the Colwell Center. It holds thousands of people. Every other race of people were in there to get free books, but we weren't. And so I think it's going to be necessary for our entities, being in our governmental entities, our educational entities, to quit functioning as individuals and to function as a group, because we can only bring a certain piece, and then we need you guys to bring a piece, and the artist in you to bring a piece to the table, so that all our entities are working together, and that will be able to influence, I think, the young people on up and get the community out.
And I want to add some, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You asked a question a few minutes ago, and your question was, first you made a statement. You said you saw this event
On Google?
okay. And so you asked, how did this come to be?
Yes.
Everything that the panel is saying is why we're here today. Senior Corporal Terrence T-Hop is the president of Black Police Association, and God put in him to have a community town hall. So we're trying to bring the community together so that we can address these issues. Because see, we talk about them, but then we don't do anything about it. We register to vote, but then we don't get out and vote. So we try to bring the community in. This is a powerful panel that it's been out there forever. But because we didn't have, say, we did have a DJ, but we didn't have Beyonce coming out. You know what I mean? We didn't have Keith Sweat coming out. We didn't have a free buffet for all you can eat coming out. We didn't have that hook. What they brought to the table, we didn't want to hear about that. That's why it's just us in here. The same people, all these folks you're seeing in here, we're the same ones gonna be in the line to vote. But those ones that can pull together a protest because somebody was shot, have those folks, they register, but they don't get out and vote to make a true change. We talked about the village. This is why T-Hop came up with the Black Police Association Community Town Hall meeting, so that we can have these kind of conversations. To have that strong panel and then to just hear it for us to hear. That's the reason why. Someone said something about free something. Those supplies are over there for teachers because we understand that they come out of their pockets. That was just our way of simply saying thank you for all that you do. Where are they?
So you know.
That's the reason why
Yeah.
we're doing this.
You know,
to
but-
bring the community out.
Right. But
That's to answer that question.
Okay. But-
No, she had the question.
Okay, so you know, we have to hear things 3 or 4 times. You know, as you know, as people, we don't hear it the first time. We might catch some of it the second time, but we have to hear it again. And then maybe that 4th time we'll be like, okay. You know, so y'all just, I'm glad I came. I'm glad she came, because we're here to encourage you as the community. And I don't have kids in the school district. I had said that I was an infant toddler teacher. I worked at the VA in the child care part. And that was my first job in a daycare setting. So I loved it so much, I decided to go to school and learn really everything that I can about it. And so I started with early child education, and then I'm at SMU now in the graduate school for theology, because I think that that's it. That's what needs to happen. Because CW was right. When we were growing up in school, we don't care what happened. In the morning, you laid your head down and they played the Our Father prayer. That was every morning. So even if you had a bad experience before you got to school, by the time the teacher got up and was ready to present the lessons, there was a calming and a settling just from being quiet and focusing on that music being played just for a few minutes. Do y'all remember that? Was that gone when y'all got, because I'm 68, so I'm old school.
And I'm
Y'all
older than
remember
you.
who? Well, I remember CW, yeah, many. So that would help, but you can't compel people to pray anymore, you know, but I'll be at every meeting, because my heart is just open for these children.
I had something, we were talking about you said, how do we do this and how can we get the youth at a young age and even sometime with the parents? Well, this was for Judge Shannon all the way at the end. Since she's in the juvenile court, I guess maybe Judge Shannon could address when you have people come in your court, because, and you could tell them what your jurisdiction is from what age all the way up to 17, but do you have to also try and address these parents as well? Judge Shannon?
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me start here and then we'll talk about juvenile court. So I understand that we have a different type of community than what we have had in the past. As we talked about, you know, all the permissions that neighbors had, that church members had, that teachers had to be able to assist in the raising and the rearing of our children. And we live in a different place now, in a different type of community. So I think what you're hearing is that in changing the narrative, it's a change holistically and totally. And part of the change of the narrative is that we're going to empower young people so that ultimately, as we talked about, those young people that become parents will be able to do better and have a different framework and a different course of action, a different approach to life. But also, we live in a time where we're going to have to depend, unfortunately, on our young people to bring those adults along. And I know that that's a horrible burden to place on a young person, but it is a reality. So as we deal with our young people, as we teach them things that are helping them understand a better way, that there are possibilities, that there's a better life ahead, here are some things to pay attention to do whatever. As they relate some of those things to other family members, perhaps sometimes, and even, you know, ask those parents, I need you to come out, I need you to do whatever. That approach may be helpful in changing that narrative. But ultimately, it's going to take the generation that we're dealing with now to move forward, to be able to go back and rekindle and rethink and redo, because we've got a group of parents and a community that unfortunately, sometimes they're just trying to make it. They're just trying to survive. They're lost themselves. And so as we impact those children that they've had that are lost, hopefully they'll be able to change that as we go. So it is absolutely a process, and unfortunately it's going to be a long process. In terms of what we do in juvenile court, we hear cases where youth are alleged to have committed offenses starting at the age of 10, and that's really difficult, because if I have a 10-year-old, they can barely see me across the bench. And we have lower benches, but also it's so hard to even explain to a 10-year-old what their rights are in court. Oh my gosh, you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to have a lawyer, this, whatever. And they can't even understand sometimes, you know, what's going on, much less, you know, kind of understand what conduct that they've engaged in and why it's delinquent or criminal, much less understand all the dynamics that go along with having a court case. So that's really difficult. And up to the age of 17 if the offense happens while they're 16. So we can take them from 10 to 16, and then they still may be with us to 16 through that 17-year-old time. And then we absolutely lose, you know, all of our jurisdiction by 18. So we have to embrace our parents, and we've learned along the way, because this process and what we do in juvenile court has changed so much over the years. And there was a time many years ago we focused on trying to put that youth back in a whole place, and then we realized we can put them back in a whole place, and we dump them back into that same community with the same family, the same neighbors, the same parents, and nothing has changed, and so they can't be successful. So we had to do things that help us to embrace families and parents and hold parents accountable, but unfortunately they're already in court when we're holding them accountable for some of those behaviors of their young people. But we do have a lot of things that we do with respect to holding the parents accountable. It may be that they're engaged in one of the programs that's really successful is this functional family therapy, where we literally have therapists that go into the home to help families rearrange and change how they respond to each other and the context of their communities and their youth, and what they can do differently to be able to have a greater expression and a greater understanding of the challenges of their youth, and how to just embrace that and to help. Many young people and parents listen to Judge Huff and how their youth listen to them and talk to them. They don't know how to, parents don't know how to communicate with their young people. And so we literally teach them how to listen, how to communicate, how to understand kind of, what their young people are going through, because our youth are faced with so many things that we never had to be faced with. We never really had to worry about the kind of gang issues that are, they're being pulled on to engage in. We never had to worry about, how to, as we talk about, survive in a crisis in a school, a shooting, and be taught how do you escape, what do you need to do if there's an active shooter, and have drills. The drill we had was being in the highway, putting your head down, in case there was some type of nuclear threat, right? And that wasn't likely to happen. But we're talking about, they're trying to learn how to survive every day. And so we literally try to embrace all of that and bring the parents along and help them. And as I'm so grateful, I'm just sitting here, and I'm grateful for the younger judges that are coming along to be able to have a greater connection with the population that we serve, and certainly, they come with fresh and bright ideas and new ideas, but we have come to understand that we have to deal with that family as a whole, and we do that, but unfortunately, they're already in court. And so the beauty of what you're hearing are things that will happen and that can occur outside of that courtroom with a case going on. Inside the courtroom as a learning tool, and it's so important. And so the narrative will change, I believe, I hope, I pray, in time, but I really truly believe that it is, it's these high school students that are going to have to bring along everybody behind them to change things. And that's unfortunate, but we have to deal with reality. It doesn't do us any good to put our head in the sand and say, okay, but it is a reality. So as we impact them, they will in turn be able to impact the future.
Yeah, and it's true. We have a lot of our students that when we're talking about different topics, they're relating to us real life issues that they've seen their parents go through, and they're shocked. They're like, sometimes they'll slip and say, oh, well, my mom did that. And you're like, okay, so let's talk about, right? But they're seeing these real life things, and they will ask, so Judge, what happens when this happens? Or what should I do when I see this happening again? And we've had some outcries. We had the Rape Crisis Center present in this last semester. We had several outcries. And teaching these high school students about what consent is, that session was eye-opening as an adult. The things that they're experiencing this day and age, it's just, so while we're catching them in high school, I think, they're still open to learning, and they are in a position where they're taking this information back to their parents, because had several come back and say, well, I told my mom what you said,
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
and even their parents are like, well, they know they're in the program, but they still ask, well, where'd you learn that? Who told you that? So,
And I always say to the students, my goal is to teach you something that you can teach your parents. I want you to know more about the criminal justice system than your parents do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's really sad, because I'm a substitute teacher. It's really sad when you hear, say, a third grader or a fourth grader say, you don't even know what I go through. I'm thinking, well, I guess you might be right. But for them to be so young, you know what I mean, and have to go through that kind of stuff, it's just sad. But I like what y'all was saying, and I think for the teachers, with y'all having that direct relationship with the school board and the trustees, it's my, because you really can't say what you really can say, but if you all could just impact the board of trustees for those districts that you're working in, well, I know you're in Duncanville this time, but those trustees is where it starts, because those principals, they only, because they don't want to hear the parents, and the trustees want to keep the voters happy, but they're forgetting about the teachers that can't control their classroom. Because all you can do is tell that person to sit down, or you go to in-school suspension, or just go to the principal office, and then when the bell rings, you go back to your next class.
We'll
That's
say
not
this,
fair.
the trustees that we've worked with were very interested in, I guess, the new approach that our program brought to their schools. They were very open to it. In fact, we started off meeting with the trustees. We actually just met a trustee from Duncanville because we were invited to present at a city council meeting at Duncanville last week. And so once they find out about the program, they're all very open. So I will say that has been very helpful for us in order to get into the schools and do the work that we need to do. That's been great. But I think, when we're talking about younger children, the impact that everybody can have, whether you have kids in the school system or not. When's the last time we all went to any of the meetings, the school board meetings, right? Whether you have a kid or not, you're paying taxes. And those tax dollars, you should have something to say about how they're spent. So we all need to be going to school board meetings and asking the tough questions. Because at the end of the day, before I went to law school, I was in AmeriCorps, and I went back home to St. Louis to the inner city schools, and I taught 4th grade. And we didn't have enough books, so the kids did not go home with books. And I didn't have enough paper to make copies for the kids, so I couldn't even copy homework assignments for them. And so, I don't know what a judge could have done about that, other than if you're paying tax dollars, going to the school board meetings and saying, why don't we have enough books for the kids? And if not enough books, why not enough paper to make copies to send them home with homework? They didn't really have homework because I did what I could do while they were there with me, and then I was still brushing hair and brushing teeth and putting deodorant on kids and stuff like that because they just didn't have the support at home that they needed. So education is key, but we have to really, nobody wants to have that finance talk about how dollars are spent in our country when it relates to education. That's huge. If we don't have that conversation, we can do this all day, right? It won't change what they're getting in the school, because all we're doing is going in the school. So there has to be a foundation there already.
So as the community, we need to speak up. So who do we need to speak to about how the dollars are spent? We talk to the
You need to start talking to
Texas
your legislature, right?
Okay.
So your congressman, your congresswoman, right? You can start with your state reps even. So, but most people don't know who those people are in their district. So that's key. If you go to DallasCountyVotes.org and you type in your name and date of birth, now it's real tricky. If you have a hyphenated last name, you better know exactly how you're registered to vote. Otherwise, you're gonna come up and you'll be like, I know I'm registered, but I can't find myself, right? But once you are able to locate your voter information, it'll tell you everybody that represents you in your area. Start having those conversations. Pop up in a school board meeting. I think that's a great start there.
So every 2 years when the state reps meet and Congress meets down in Austin, education budgeting is in every session. And so talk to your reps. If you have time, you're off, go down to the committees down in Austin where they're talking about how money is spent in Texas. And on the education committee down in Austin, they're talking about what books are used to teach the different histories and sciences and who gets in books and who's not in books, who's represented in books and not. There was a debate this year around the country about them wanting to take certain women out of historical books. And so it's important that we know what books our kids are being taught and what kind of history they're being taught. We want the history to be reflective, because when I grew up, all they taught about Black history was slavery and Jim Crow, and not that that's not part of history and part that we need to learn, yes, but
Don't
nobody was
slow it
talking about, right, we need to learn that, because if you don't learn your history, it will repeat itself, or at least it'll definitely try. But nobody was talking about the ladies from Hidden Figures, or that we were astronauts and made the lights, and my daughter, one of her favorites, some kid rap song out that says, Black made that, and it talks about all the inventions that Black people make, and it's catchy, so she likes the song because it's a catchy tune, and they learn to sing it, and they learn to sing it in the elementary school. And we are in a predominantly Caucasian elementary school, just based on where we live, but they taught that, and I appreciate that. You know, they watched the little video, so we need to make sure that when they're meeting down in Austin, we are not left out. If you are
I don't even think they talked about slavery in my school. I don't remember that ever even being a topic. Black History Month was something that at the church I was a part of, but it wasn't anything at school. But so our HBCUs are key too. I mean, gosh, that experience versus Syracuse, which Syracuse is great, that's where I went for law school, but that experience versus Tuskegee was completely different.
Well, I've only been at SMU for this next, 3 or 4 weeks, but I can already see it's a huge difference. Well, we're in college and Southern Methodist University. But Judge Shannon, you know what, thank you for it, because when you said, you giving it to the people that are gonna be adults really soon, I think that's a great strategy, because a lot of them are like big sisters and big brothers, and they can pass the information down to the little ones. So I think.
And we're seeing, you know, young people embrace certain concepts and ideas. And when they do it in such an amazing, fabulous way, right? If you know, just pay attention to youth, or, you know, they're kind of paying, you know, following things with respect to the ecology and global warming or whatever. So when they embrace something, there's power, you know, in our young generation, because they think differently. They don't think the way we think. They think outside of the box, and they're able to do things in a profound way. And so our issue is, I always say, is to harness those gifts, because I guarantee you, the youth that I'm seeing in court and that are coming before Pipeline to Possibilities, they have so many gifts and so many strengths, but they haven't been taught how to harness that. And the very thing that we can harness and develop a strength out of may be the very thing that causes them some challenges and gets them in trouble. If you see a young person, particularly an African-American young male, that's really strong, and they question teachers, they question authority, they question whatever, then they begin to be labeled you know, as a behavior issue and other kinds of things, as opposed to, let's harness that and learn how to use it and allow them to be able to use it in a creative, productive way. And that's just so important, because I see young people with so many strengths, but they just haven't been taught how to harness it and use it in a way that's powerful and empowering and helpful to them.
Go ahead.
In regards to multicultural awareness, what part of your program addresses that, if anything, and do you think it's important that multicultural awareness be addressed?
Well, it's not an aspect of our program, but I'll tell you this, the kids that we're working with, I mean, they're of all colors.
Right, but in regards to, because Judge Shannon, you just addressed that you start, you know, like there's strong kids that have strong characters, and then they're, you know, labeled as something. So in regards to multicultural awareness, especially in Dallas, there's cultures of all kinds, and the media takes it upon itself to say, you know, with all these violent things that have been happening, all these deaths by white cops, you know, killing black people and things like that, like that's what you hear. So how do you think that impacts the way that a child already sees law
We-
enforcement, and how does your program try to bridge that in addressing the multicultural awareness?
We actually have we have officers that come in and talk to the children. It's called Blend. And Stephanie, what does Blend stand for?
Bridging law enforcement in neighborhoods in Dallas.
Yes, they come in and they have those tough conversations with the kids because the kids ask those questions about what they've seen on YouTube and, you know, social media videos about people who seemingly, you know, as they've stated it, seemingly they were doing nothing but living, and how do you expect me to interact with police officers when I'm seeing these things? So they're asking those questions. And, you know, we have the people that are out there every day risking their lives, answering those questions, and they don't shy from them. You know, so they're having the one-on-one conversations with the police officers because we can give them all the advice that we want to, and we actually did the other day. Students did ask that question, and we can advise them, but we're not out there on the streets every day. You know, that's something I could never do. You know, big ups to you, because that's just not my calling, right? And so for us, bringing the police officers in and allowing them to have that one-on-one conversation is how we're addressing it.
Because, I mean, ultimately, you're talking to law enforcement officers, and if they're being completely honest, I think your goal at the end of the night is to go home, right? To your families, alive, well, not maimed. And I think that's the same goal that these kids are having each and every day, to go home to their families, not harmed or maimed. But I think we need to break down those barriers and have the real life conversations about what it is that leads us to have these fears. When we encounter law enforcement, what fears does law enforcement have when they encounter our young adults? Those are the things that we're talking about, and these kids don't shy away from their questions or their concerns, and law enforcement is very candid with them as well about what their concerns and fears are. And I think it's one thing to just have, you know, these things in our heads. It's another thing to open the dialogue and start the narrative. And I appreciate the fact that was a program I initially started in my court. But when we started doing Pipeline to Possibilities, I was like, why can't we incorporate this in there and try and get more kids involved and reach out to more young adults, because we're hearing it all over the nation. Don't think they aren't listening to it and hearing it as well. So I think it's a good thing that we're doing, and I'm glad that law enforcement participates, because I think your concerns are real as well.
And another thing, I'm sorry to be right quick for January. Another thing that Dallas Police Department is doing is we're trying to implement programs into the schools. There's several schools that we implement programs where we actually target, we go into the high schools and we target the detention centers, okay? And these kids are primarily, kids are disrupting the class, kids are skipping school, or late in school, what have you, and we target the kids in the detention centers. And what we do, we don't wear the uniform. We're just basically blue jeans, t-shirt, tennis shoes, and just talking to them, show them that we're somebody said humanistic isn't a word, but I think it is. But we're trying to be more humanistic to the kids, to let them see us as a person, right, other than a police officer. And then we tear down those walls. Right, this dialogue, we talk about how the Cleveland Browns are going to go to the Super Bowl, or we talk about a variety of different topics and trying to.
You wishing it
Cleveland Browns, who are they?
Y'all got two good players, and all of a sudden, now,
Where'd they come from?
We'll talk about that.
Let's be
after I know.
realistic.
He meant the Pats.
But we,
I want
but,
these kids to have some attainable and realistic things. That's all we ask.
but that's something the police department's trying to do as well, along with their program, because we're just trying to really knock down the negative perception that the public and the kids have on the police department. Matter of fact, we just finished doing a barbershop talk, and what we're doing with barbershop talk is a program called Getting Faded with 12. Now, I didn't know what 12 was, and I'm in the gang unit. Do you guys know what 12 is?
Is that the game? The thing?
You know what 12 means?
12.
12. The kids call 12, and I'm saying to myself, 12. Wait, 12. And so one of the kids say that's what the kids call police officers now. Instead of 50, they call us 12. One Adam 12 maybe. That's what I'm thinking. So it's Getting Faded with 12. So that's our barbershop talk, and we go into the barbershops and we just talk to the folk. You know, kids, people, whoever, and just trying to tear down that barrier so we won't have that negative perception. We try to have black officers, white officers, Hispanic officers, all officers as a coalition, you know, trying to talk to the community. So.
And do
you think yourself, this is a very personal question, do you think yourself being of color, do you find yourself getting reactions differently from different ethnicities that you encounter? Have you experienced racism in the job that you do, that you call in that?
I've never really faced it. What about yourself?
Being on the street every day, I've seen that it's harder dealing with black teenagers every day because they call me a sellout. They think, I'm from South Dallas, and born and raised in South Dallas, but going back and policing South Dallas, they think I'm a sellout because I should let them slide from time to time, or I don't agree with what they're doing or their way of life. But same thing, that's why we have community programs, and to explain to them, because I tell them on a personal level every day that it's more to life than South Dallas. Just because you're here in these circumstances don't dictate the outcome of your life. So.
Which is what somebody up here just said a few minutes ago, letting them see that you can become, that's just what yeah.
And I think I try to do that in my court with my specialty program, or even if I have a defendant that comes before me. I had an African-American female, and she started talking about all the things that led her to her criminal behavior, and I came off the bench, literally, because I needed her to be able to touch and see that I was real, you know, and I learned that from, I will tell y'all, I don't necessarily steal, but I recycle. Because I'm an environmentalist. And it's real. So Michelle Obama says in her book that every place that she went, she specifically targeted schools, that she would make it a point to go there, and she would have the Secret Service to stand back or wait on the side because she wanted the kids to be able to touch her and know that she was real and that she existed. And it's little things like that that I saw made a difference. I mean, the first thing that shocks them is that I'm not as tall as they thought I was. But stop it. But just that little thing that you do, just to let people see you're real, you exist. Anytime I have a child that has to come in my court, everybody sitting at this table, we were all former prosecutors, every one of us. And specifically,
Not me.
Oh, sorry. Forgot Judge.
She said what? She said I made it out.
She made it out. Well, pipeline for possibilities. The five of us.
She was a PD.
Yeah, the five of us sitting up here were all former prosecutors, and then we have Lisa Green, who was a public defender. So we were all within the court system, and specifically, for instance, with the child abuse cases. Those are kind of going to always be the hardest ones to handle. And so anytime I have a child victim, whether she has to testify or whether the case gets resolved or whatever, I always make sure and let her either come back to my chambers, or I let them come to the side of the bench and I actually talk to them, or I'll come down and talk to them so that child can see, wow, you know, this is real, or they'll raise their hand, and, and I'm like, you're not in school, you don't have to raise your hand. But, it's little stuff like that I think that we can do that gives a bigger impact than anything. And oftentimes when I do it, I specifically tell the parents to not come. I will talk to them by myself one-on-one. So as we do with Pipeline of Possibility, I'll ask them, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And it's oftentimes they'll tell me. And a lot of times they'll say, but I know I can never do that because my mom or my dad's not going to let me be in that program. Or they're not going to, But when you talk to them, you encourage them, and you say, you still can do it. These are things they probably wouldn't say in front of their parents, because one child was like, I wouldn't say it in front of my mom because I don't want to make her feel bad because she can't afford for me to be in the after-school program. Things like that. But I think that if we all try to reach people as much as we can, just in little ways, you just never know the impact, that you have. You'll have that person in the back of the room waving their hand going, Judge Kelly, remember me? Remember me? It's impacts that you don't even know that speak volumes. And so if we all can just do little things like that, or just going back into the classrooms, or even seeing the officers that are in the gang unit, they just wear regular clothes. They don't want to be intimidated. And the story that you said about the South Dallas, going back to your own neighborhood, it's amazing that you would get the kind of flack that you do, but a lot of times because you are from that neighborhood, you can relate. and probably have conversations with them that they wouldn't have with anybody else. So I would just hope that our conversations here would be enough for all of us to go back and maybe do something a little bit different in the way we handle young people and the influence we can have on them.
So it's important for adults, right, not to spread bad narrative. So it's important for adults who are around children, if something does happen and there's a shooting of someone who's black by a white police officer, it's important for us adults, this narrative, not to impugn all police officers, right? And to say that guy, whatever his name, maybe he was bad, and there's bad in every profession, right? But to not impugn the whole system over one person. So I think as adults, we got to fix our narrative because our kids hear what we say, and then they believe, right? You want them to believe you. If I said I want her to believe me, she's going to believe what I say. And so it's important, So when she was a little girl, we would see police officers and we'd go up and I'd say, shake the police officer's hand, he's here to help us, right? Because that's the narrative I want her to believe of them. And she gets old enough and I will tell her how to behave. But hopefully you'll treat police officers as respectful as you treat your grandfather and your teacher. Hopefully I've taught you right. But for those people who, but they are bad, right? I got a nephew who's at Ole Miss. And he took his car this semester. So it was important for me to have that conversation with him about if a police officer, and not that I thought he was gonna do anything, but to tell him how to behave when the police officer comes, make sure your hands are visible, let everybody be okay. And if he does something wrong, I'll come down to Mississippi and we'll deal with it the next day, right? But so I think it's important for us to have those conversations, but it's also important for us as adults to not impugn the police officers with negativity just because we can, just because we've seen something that we think is inappropriate.
I like what you just said because I actually witnessed a parent see an officer in the store say, okay, you see that police officer, I already told you what they're gonna do to you. I was like, oh my God.
What's
So
the Facebook
we still
thing,
need to
right?
detox that to where the parents are stop teaching their kids to be afraid of an officer.
They need to teach respect.
Yeah, that's what they need to teach is the respect.
They need to start that in early child. That's pipeline to success for third graders.
He has added another one.
Respect, honor,
Mr. C.
And
Deputy
the
done
smart,
started his own
and the,
program, y'all.
and the smarter you are, the more money you're gonna make. That's what you need to teach them.
Yeah.
Those two
Public
things.
service, but there's a deal on Facebook, right? Have y'all seen it? It's a little girl, she's driving one of those little bitty cars.
Yes,
The little new
yes.
car that kids drive.
Yes.
And it's funny in some respect, right? But she's driving and she's parked her little car on the sidewalk and the police officer pulls up, she doesn't see him, and he walks up behind her little bitty, Tonka Troy car, and she sees him, and she jumps down and starts running. Dead, and he's just walking behind her, and they're playing the song Bad Boys on it. But what's interesting is her first response to respond to the police officer was to run from him, not to
Yes,
believe he was
yes.
there to help her, but to believe he was there to do something bad to her. So we gotta fix that narrative,
Absolutely.
right? Because we put our brothers in harm when we teach that narrative. Because it's not just the white police officers they're not gonna trust, they're gonna trust them either. And so we don't wanna put them in harm, so we just need to make sure that we make sure our kids understand there are some bad police officers, like there are bad lawyers and bad teachers and bad everything.
Bad parents.
But there are also, just bad people, right? But that it doesn't impugn a whole profession because there are some bad apples.
Any more questions? So I'm gonna get ready to close it up. It's been just wonderful listening to these ladies, these judges. Shouldn't even say ladies, let's just say judges because they're so official. So, as I sit here just listening to them, and I really wanted to take a back seat because, you gotta really look at how powerful this is. And could you imagine this room being filled with 20, 30 teenage girls and looking at this right here? It almost brings tears to me right now. So the outreach to the community is what we're doing. We often get a lot of pushback and, where are you in the community? Well, that's the reason I started doing this. So we're here in the community, so now I have to challenge the community. Where is the community, right? Now, the room's been filled with probably about 20 people, but again, priorities in life, what's more important, So as we continue trying to build this for the community, and it's for everybody in the community, we're gonna hang in there, because there are gonna be good times and bad times, but still, we're gonna be here for the community. So they won't ever be able to say, we weren't here. I guarantee you that. So, with that being said, I just wanna thank everybody for coming. Definitely thank this amazing panel right here, because this is gonna get a redo right here. This is here, I don't even know if this has ever been done before with this type of a panel. So we're gonna do a redo here, and just try to reach out to a lot more. Obviously, now if I'd have titled this, Botham Jean and Amber Geiger, then everybody been here probably with pitchforks, but, you know, look at what brings them in. Like I say, they can form a protest in 10 minutes and be blocking up Central Expressway. So, you know, I don't know if we gotta market more creatively or just, you know, be crafty about throwing stuff out there like that, but.
Yeah.
All right, guys, well, again, thank you guys for coming out, and we'll try this again in about a month. All right.